Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa White as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't lose in business because they lack intelligence, capital, or opportunity. They lose because their inner world is chaotic, and chaos always leaks into decisions. Today's episode is for leaders, founders, and professionals who are tired of winning on paper and bleeding on the inside. Because clarity isn't just a mindset. It is also a business strategy. Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast where we don't just talk about success. We dismantle the psychology behind it. I'm Dr. Alisa White, your number one mindset disruptor and the executive producer and host of this top 1% global podcast, heard in over 92 countries and hundreds of cities worldwide. And today, we're going to stretch the way you think about leadership, decision-making, and performance, especially if you operate in high-stakes environments. Let me frame this conversation. We live in a culture that glorifies speed, hustle, reaction, fast decision, faster scaling, faster exits. But neuroscience tells us something radically different. The most strategic decisions are not made in urgency. They're made in stillness. And that's why today's guest matters. My guest today operates at the intersection of billion-dollar business strategy and inner mastery. He has managed and advised at the highest levels of corporate performance worldwide, including environments like IPOs, where pressure is not theoretical, it's real. But what makes him different is how he thinks. Of course, born and raised between China and Sweden, he brings a rare multicultural framework to leadership. One that blends Eastern observation and detachment with Western execution and scale. Man, that sounds like magic portions to me. He is a global business strategist, executive partner at Sincere Alignment Group, and an advocate for decentralization, a creator-led future of work. More importantly, he models something most leaders talk about but rarely practice, and that is decision-making without burnout. Power without ego, and scale without losing the soul of the business. I am so excited to welcome today Mr. Yining Wang. Yining, I am so honored to welcome you to Mindset Mastery Moments. Just tell us who you are in your own words, what you do, and why you do it.
All right. Thanks so much. That's such a warm introduction. I'm so glad to be here as well to share my experiences and, my inner world and the thinking that really helped me and shape who I am today on today's show, and hope that could resonate and be of help for everybody else. So super thankful for this introduction and time to share a bit more.
I am honored to have you.
Great. So a little bit about my own background. So my name is Yining Wang. I'm actually culturally a little bit confused, I would say, to be very frank, because my parents are actually from China, but I moved to Sweden when I was very young, age around 6, 7. I grew up in Sweden. And Sweden is cold. It's like really cold, and speaking English, their own language. So it's a small country in Europe. It's around 10 million people. And I grew up there. So more or less, I'm Swede. Like my Swedish is actually better than my English. Right? But people can't really tell that because, I have this Asian glow, Asian face. But that is also what makes me maybe stand out a little bit for the fact that, I grew up in Sweden, but I have Chinese and Asian heritage. Now, back in 2014, I moved to Hong Kong. So I'm still based in Hong Kong right now. And I've been in Hong Kong for almost a decade now. So what I do is really to bridge, you can say, entrepreneurship, capital, and also this mixture of Western society and Eastern wisdom, and apply it in real life situations. So that's a little bit short about myself, and really happy to be here and share more of my experiences and my inner work to the world.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for thinking about us here at Mindset Mastery Moments to grace us with your time. It is quite an hour, late hours in Hong Kong as you are on the show with us right now. And we're so grateful that we're going to learn from you today. So I know. So let's talk about you being between these two different cultures, Sweden and China. How did that early cultural conditioning shape the way you perceive leadership, power, and success today?
That's a great question. And I would say for me, since, I've gone through this entire process with starting a company back in 19, we took it public 21, was public CEO for the past 5 years, and we recently merged it with another company. So I really it was an entire journey around 6 years of doing that. I say first company and all that, IPO process, etc. So back to your question, I really actually spent quite some time this summer to really reflect about, okay, what really drove me? And also, how has my background, my childhood shaped the way I am? What are the lessons learned from my first, you can say, entrepreneurial journey? And also, what shaped me? So, when it comes to my upbringing in Sweden, I think when we really spend some time in stillness and really think about life choices and why we make life choices, that's when we realize and get that real insight into some depths of us that we might have not really unlocked unless we ask ourselves those kind of questions. So for me, I think being Swede, I grew up as being Chinese or Swedish Chinese, there's always a little bit element of trying to fit in, to be honest.
Can imagine.
Of course, I mean, back in Sweden, there's not a lot of Asians. I'm among the one of the few. So my parents are Chinese. We parents don't speak any Swedish. So always try to fit in some kind of way. Like my parents don't have a boat. Like I don't know anything about boats. The Swedes are all into boats and sailing and all that stuff. I have absolutely no clue what that is. We're like land crabs, like they call it land crabs. So we're like land crabs. I didn't go, what is the ocean? What is that? I go swimming sometimes, but boat, what is that? And in bowling,
Right.
they have all these terminologies. So for me, it was really always a little bit of trying to fit in, always to strive for some kind of external validation. If it's like high school or success, any kind of way, it
Mm,
was a little bit of a, I would say, inner pursuit of trying to fit in and also to achieve, that external validation that you wanted when you are young and ambitious and there's a lot of, you can say, things in this world that you are very you want to achieve. So that shaped me a little bit from childhood onwards, actually, which has its pros and its cons.
it does. It does. It does. What I want listeners to hear that you said is culture isn't just something we live in. It really wires how we think and how we react and how we lead. I love what you said about stillness. That stillness is a place where you can more or less rediscover or just uncover some of the missing parts of you. Where do you see leaders unknowingly operating from an inverted way of cultural scripts that actually limit their performance? And I want you to challenge that idea as well.
I think there's a lot of things, related to that particular theme. Number one is that we are very conditioned, right? Like it or not, throughout our trade, throughout our history, throughout our culture, and also in these very busy days as a business leader or a big executive, etc. You have to make so many decisions. A lot of those decisions that you make are a little bit, you can say, reflexes because you've been in that situation before, you know this before. So a lot of that is like conditioning, right? Because you've been there before. So it's but at some point in time, we need to remove conditioning
Mm,
because if we only do the same thing that we always thought about, and okay, this is the way I handle this particular situation, or this is what there is no innovation, there's no creativity, there's no authenticity. Right, we're conditioned to just be like robots. Okay, consume this, go get this customer, get this pipeline, close this deal before year end, and then the board meeting is like automatic. If you're being a CEO, you know how it works. It's exactly the same stuff. So you operate from
exactly.
a place a little bit of, but if you really can, try to make some space for yourself and for truly important questions and truly important decisions, try to tap into an inner voice that's beyond condition.
Mm.
Right. And that is where you get the breakthrough or the next level thinking, right? Because it's not just within the normal scope of mode of operandi, if you call that.
Exactly. So I love that. Let's talk about pressure because
Mm,
a lot of leaders are confused
mm,
detachment with disengagement. You talk about that. They think that if they step back, they'll lose control. Like you're saying,
Mhm.
do it differently. Don't keep the same programming going. And that's false.
Mm.
What decision-making process do you imply in your operations and in your world that helps to combat that pressure between
Mm.
detachment and disengagement?
And I think, for all leaders out there, for all CEOs, executive leaders here, we all know how it is, right? Like we are
Mm-hmm.
we got the board, we got the investors, we got the shareholders on top. That's where all the pressure comes in. We're in the middle, and then we need to manage everybody else. So all the real world problems and all the real world things, it's coming out. So you're like in the middle. You're like a sandwich. You're getting squeezed every freaking day. And you
Yes.
always need to report some good news and things like that to something like whatever it can be. So we are under extreme pressure, right? No
Yes, we
matter
are.
how big you're all over. So the most important thing is to be in control of your own inner peace, which means don't let that pressure break you. You have
Mm,
a choice. Being a CEO is a choice. And you can be in this company, you can work for these guys, and you can choose to not work for these guys. Understand, and always be aware that this is a choice. It's not
this
an
is a
obligation.
choice.
And when you start from that point of view, then you need to manage the
Yes,
stakeholders up top, stakeholders down top from a total different point of energy, because then you take back your power. And
yes.
don't be a yes sayer. Don't be a yes sayer, whatever
Come
you
on.
are. Just don't be a yes sayer. Just don't be a yes sayer. Don't be a yes man. I
Yes,
just don't be it. Because you can never satisfy everybody, and everybody will just come to you with different opinions all the time. If you're like that, you're allowing people to walk all over you. Don't do that.
yes,
Don't do that, bro.
yes.
Don't do that.
And they don't respect you, Yining. When
They
you
don't.
are a yes sir, people feel like they're going to advance in their career. They're going to get the favor of the leaders. I watched someone do it one time. She did it for a couple of years. We were working in the same company. She had a leadership position. I had one. And she was there ever since she was like a very young woman. Like she was probably like 21 or 22. And at this point, they are letting her go in her late 30s. She had been there for over 13 years already. I was only there for like my second year. And when they let her go, it was so painful to her and devastating. But she was a yes, or yes, ma'am type person. And she was crying and she came to me and we weren't very close, but she was holding it together. And I said, I know you're leaving and I just want to wish you well. And she broke down. She said, I can't believe they're doing this to me. I said, I know, I can understand that you were one of the people that they choose to let go. I said, the next time, you work in a company, here's a bit of advice, because I know this was your first job, but I'm going to tell you, you're very smart, educated, and it's not going to be your last job. But can I give you a piece of real advice? Because we sat at an executive level, so we sit across the table from each other. I said, the next time you have opinions, you have ideas, you have concepts, or you have principles and values, don't let people walk all over them in any organization. It is not worth it. I said, let me tell you, I'd rather be on the streets rebuilding my career and my life than to be in an organization where I say yes to everything. Now, I'm not saying say no or give a challenge just because you can, but you
Right.
have an idea, you have a vision, you have values, you have a contribution to this team, and you should let it be known. It doesn't mean they have to follow it, but companies and organizations, no matter how challenging the environment, they value people who bring about change, who bring about
Mm.
something that they can build on. So when you're just going with what they say, you're not valuable to them. They're going to get rid of you. Tell us
Yeah.
some. What do you think about that, Yining?
No, of course, I think there has a lot of patterns around that because, I've been in the same position and I still am in sometimes. But I think a couple of things. First of all, I think we need to audit a little bit why we are like that. Why are we yes
Tell
man? That's
us.
a more
Yes.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
ask ourselves, why do I say yes to everything? Like, I
Mm.
know this is not. I know I have to make sacrifice. I know this is like, like I don't want to stay up all this night. I have family. I have friends, I have a relationship I need to maintain. If I say yes to all these demands from the external world, how do I balance my own life? Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not. So therefore, like, ask yourself why. you are saying yes. And why you're saying yes might be related to your childhood because, growing up, we
Mm,
just want people's approval and school's approval. And if you say yes to, meeting different demands, that's how you get recognized. But in the real world, that's not how you actually build your own life, right?
mm,
That's like parenting. When you were a kid, it was like that. But when you're gonna build your own family, build your own legacy, it's a different game. So ask yourself, why do you say yes to things? Is it because you want that external validation? You want people to like you, or you cannot take on confrontations? Why can you
mm.
not take confrontations? It's not like you need to confront people. In Swedish, we're like the most polite people in the world. Like we're super indirect, but we will set boundaries in a very indirect way as well.
Yes.
We still do that. We still do that. We still do that. And those are things that you need to ask yourself so that you really uncover more layers and you get to know yourself better. The more you get to know yourself better, the more you know what you want, what you don't want, what drives some of these behaviors, the
Mm-hmm.
more power to influence and manage the external world.
Where it is. Yes, I love that. I love that. I want us to talk a little bit about the neuroscience that you talk about in your work, that when leaders operate in emotional over
Mm,
identification, that amygdala hijacks strategy. And you
mm,
say that stillness shifts to decision making back
mm.
into the prefrontal cortex where logic pattern recognition and foresight live. How can leaders practically cultivate the state of stillness without checking out of their own
Mhm.
responsibilities that they want and manage it all? Stillness with keeping up with their responsibilities.
Yeah, that one is tough. That one is actually really, really tough because
Yes, I
it's
know
so
it's a challenge
easy.
for me.
It's so easy for us to become that reptile, right? Because there's a situation. Most
Yeah.
likely is a situation, right? There's a customer, there's a lawyer, there's a supplier, there's something happening that threatens us. Or we're faced with a big challenge we might not have faced before.
Mm-hmm.
At that particular point in time, it's so easy for us to be reactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You become emotional. You feel that injustice, that, like spark of somebody is trying to take advantage or somebody is doing this unfairly. Oh, this guy is stealing things from me, or like this guy is stealing my best HR guy. He's breaking the contract. So there is some of that friction that comes. When that friction comes, you tend to be very easily connected to that reptile brain because you become reactive. Now, the most important thing here to manage those situations, to get back in stillness, is something I call be the observer of your emotions and not the actor. Be the observer in your movie and not the actor. So you can
Ooh.
observe your reaction, you observe the situation without being the reactive person. When you can become the observer, then you will have that total different stillness to be able to see this situation from an outside perspective, not from that reptile, emotional, reactive way. But that really requires you a couple of things. Number one, you need to have proper routines and a higher level of self awareness and consciousness or awareness to be
Mm.
able to know now I'm reactive. And,
Right.
and that requires practice. It requires practice. It doesn't come automatically. But I'm telling you, if you're a business leader, you're faced with a lot of those things. Some things could be small in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things. But if you haven't trained your inner work, haven't done enough inner work to understand what is big, what is small, everything becomes big. And when
Yes.
everything becomes big, then you become very reactive. Then that's not gonna be a good, recipe for anything. So everybody who's been there doing that stuff, you all know,
Yeah.
whenever you become reactive is not a good, you can say in hindsight is never good. So, so,
Right.
so, so the most important thing is to take yourself out of that situation is to cultivate a stronger inner peace,
Mm.
inner awareness. So, you feel that sensation, okay, there's something happening here, but I'm not going to react to that stuff because I know it's coming. I'm just going to chill.
Just gonna
And then
chill. I love that.
then you will reclaim that connection to your consciousness and not just react from a reptile part of your brain.
I love it. I love it. Now, you've said that, I love what you said, that stillness enhances strategic thinking. That is a great benefit for any of us leaders to be
Mm,
able to have an enhanced way of strategizing. So for that
mm.
leader that's listening who thinks stillness is a luxury that they can't afford, what would you say to them?
Just think about ROI, return on investment. The most
Yes.
basic word in business, return
Yes.
on investment. Now, I think that, because you all been here, and we really, and that is a little bit, what I really want to do is to connect, you can say daily challenges that we all face, because I've really been in their shoes. I'm still in sometimes, but with all these learnings, right? Like the mix a little bit of this Eastern thinking, way of thinking. So just very simple for all the CEOs out there, think about your ROI. Now, every
I
day we have a task, we have a to-do list. So to-do list is never done. Like yesterday's to-do list is never done. Now
keeps
the
coming.
quick key, it keeps coming. And the key here is to really think about what really is important. Now, if you're gonna think strategy is big. It's okay. I'm looking at my structure. I'm looking at my product. I'm looking at my organization. I'm looking at areas in which I can have, shared service centers. You're right. And then I can build multiple products. On top of that, I need one consolidated distribution channel so that I don't need to distribute, a new products to a new channel all the time. It's gonna take me a lot of time. Now, we live in AI world. How can I optimize my business through the application of the latest AI tools so I do not become a victim of AI? I become a proponent. I ride on the wave. So that strategic thinking is to also take yourself a little bit outside of that conditioning. The conditioning is the bread and butter, the things that come. But sometimes you need to take yourself outside of that little bubble to really look at your business, look at where you are from a top level perspective. And that time that you allocate instead of, I need to draft another, you can say, proposal to a customer because that's just like daily stuff. Right.
Right.
Maybe I just need to prioritize that stillness, strategic thinking a little bit more. Because when I think about it, you know what? I can actually ask an AI agent to draft that proposal instead. And then he
Yeah.
can draft it. But imagine that ROI. So think ROI when you think about your time allocation. Small task, operation task is never high ROI. That everybody
Mm.
knows. Like low ROI is like daily butter stuff. But strategic thinking, like big level thinking, that if you have that clarity, it will bring you a very high ROI. And therefore is worth putting that time.
I love it. So really, stillness isn't passive. It's really precision. It's a
Yeah.
targeted way of enhancing your performance, both I would say in life and in business. You're gonna because we're always looking at ROIs in our relationships, in our business, in our personal life. Where we're investing our money, where we're saving our money, we're always looking for the ROI, right? So stillness just gives you that power, that powerful view. Actually, it's like
Mm,
I live in this city and I drive around and I like my city, right? But when I get in an airplane and I'm sitting there and I look over the city of Phoenix, I have a different view
exactly.
of Phoenix. I see things differently. I'm like, oh, look at the mountains. And
Mm,
I don't see it every day because I go by it. But now because I'm up there, I can see the mountains because I'm
exactly.
sitting on the plane and all I can do is look out the window or go to sleep. So now I'm in a still place. I'm seeing
Mm,
more at a vantage point that I don't see every day. So I believe and I concur with that. Let's talk about what daily or weekly practices do you suggest that would help leaders access that clarity without slowing momentum in their stillness practice? What does that look
mm,
like?
mm. So for me, there's a couple of things I do, and this is something I've really built out, over the years because, I've been under a lot of pressure as well. So to handle all of that, I really needed to develop routines and practices to enhance my inner clarity, through, despite all these external challenges. So a couple of things I do that I really can recommend. Number one is I always do a weekly reflection. Right. So
Mm,
Sundays, is my Sabbath day, right? In Jewish tradition, you have one day that you have no phones and stuff like that. I'm not religious in that anyways,
Right.
but I do believe in
The
in
Sabbath,
the,
the
the
principle of the
reasoning
Sabbath. Yeah.
principle on the Sabbath on Sundays to really spend some time for yourself. I know, people have families and their family obligations and this and that. You could have course and stuff like that, but still, right? I also have kids and family, so you still need to set a certain time on a weekend, on Sundays for me to have that reflective moment, 1 hour or 2 hours, and just think about what happened this week. What happened on
Mm,
Monday? When did I wake up Monday? What happened on Tuesday? Who did I meet on Tuesday? How was my schedule on Wednesday? Did I pick up my kid on time? Oh, was this some delivery I missed? On Thursday, I had this meeting on Friday. Just like if you are into diary, that's even better. But if you don't into at least on a weekly, basis,
reflection.
do a weekly reflection on what happened last week. What was good, what was bad, what, maybe shifted my centeredness, that took me a situation that took me out of my control, that I was very reactive towards. Why was I reactive to that? At
Mm,
least just to align yourself. Okay, this week I spent too much time. Maybe, work or my family situation, somebody got sick. So I was overextended on my relationships. That means that on one part of your life, it's a little bit misaligned. Next week, adjust that. Right. Yeah, this week I have tons of things in work, so I couldn't do enough on the family part. It's fine. So I need to adjust it so I get back into my centeredness, into my balance. And then when you do that weekly reflection, after that, what you do is you do your next week's planning. Right. It's not just a reflection. Next
how do you move
next week's,
forward?
high level thinking. Roughly, here's the things I need to work on. There's a podcast I want to listen into. Here's the area that was misaligned. These are the areas I want to align more. Here's the times in which I need to set better boundaries. I need to ensure I set more boundaries for myself around these times because I know I to, do this and this and that. So a little
Mhm.
bit weekly reflection, and next week you can say preparation.
Yes,
Just that exercise is going to change a lot of, things moving forward. I promise you that. I guarantee you that. So if you don't do it, implement it. And you can say, like, that's a high ROI. It's a very high ROI for yourself, for your business, for your
exactly.
relationship.
Because we do it with our mail, we do it with our email. If we have a team, we call them, we have meetings together with them to figure out what's
Yeah.
going on, how it's happened. Why are we not doing that with ourselves? I always say I have to have a meeting with the CEO, which is me, the CEO of my life, my business, and everything. So I need to have these
Yeah.
meetings with myself. So you're suggesting we do this weekly, taking
Mm-hmm.
accountability for our past performance and then use that information to plan our future performance for the next week. I love it. I love it. I subscribe to that. So let's talk about resilience, not the motivational kind, not the kind that survives market crashes, identity shifts, or leadership isolation. How
Mm-hmm.
does spirituality, business principles actually strengthen psychological resilience, especially during uncertainty or the
Mm-hmm.
times when we have to scale our businesses?
So this is what I learned, and and a very good question, by the way. I think this is a great question that a lot of
Thank
people
you.
faces. So here is the thing: the more uncertain you face, either in your business or in your life,
Mm,
that is when you need to tap into that inner clarity, because you know yourself what you need to do. You know
yes,
it. Everybody knows it. You know it. You know if this is the right decision to take.
yeah,
This is the right thing to do. This is the right shift. This is a, pivot, whatever you call it. Okay, we need to, this customer is great, brings in a lot of cash, but drains me on my energy.
come on, yes,
Yeah, those kind of things. All right. If I drop this customer, my revenue might go down in the short term, but it will improve in the long term. Right.
right,
My board don't like that, but I know it's the right thing to do. When I know it's the right thing to do, you should always trust that instinct. Always trust. Always.
right,
Always.
always trust
Always.
it, right. Right.
Always, because, the more rational we become in those kind of situations, it's very easy to be rational. It's like starting a company. It's the most irrational thing you can ever do. It's the most irrational thing
Mhm.
you can do. 98 businesses, don't survive over 2 years. It's a fact. It's one of
Yeah.
the most irrational things you can do. But look at this. We're all having our own businesses. Now we're like just tons of people creating new business all the time. So why do we do that? Because we trust ourselves. We trust in our ability. We trust in our idea. And no matter all the rejections you get in the beginning, it's like, okay, all the no's you get in the beginning and nobody believes you're going to make it. Nobody believes in you, all that stuff. You still made it.
You
You
still
still
made
made
it.
it.
Yeah.
You still made it. So when you have uncertainty, that's the most important thing, to really even further take a step back. Tap into who you are, get into that stillness, and think for a little bit what is the right thing to do. And you know it. And based on your own knowingness, it's always right.
It's
It's
always
always right.
right. Yeah. I agree. My personal belief is that resilience isn't built by pushing hard. It's built by alignment between your
Mm,
values, your decision, and I would say your
mm,
nervous system regulation. So when you feel dysregulated with dealing with anybody in business, like you said, they might be the ones who are bringing in most of the profit, but they also make you so dysregulated and you feel like when you deal with them, you have to overstep your own values and your own boundaries. That puts you out of alignment. That means every other thing you do now is not going to, you're not going to be at your best because dealing with that particular customer is
mm,
making you, now you are losing other business, but usually you end up losing that kind of customer anyway because
mm.
they're high risk, I call them, and you already know what you're going, you know what I'm saying? So by risking it all with them, it's not worth it, really. It doesn't come down to it.
Just want to add on to the resilience part is that every time you listen to yourself, you'll become more aligned as well. Then you can
Ah,
take on more. So that
yes.
builds your inner resilience as well. But every time you make a decision that you're not aligned with, you know that number one, you don't 100% believe that. And number two, is not the right thing to do. Then you become less resilient, actually.
Yes.
Right, right, to push through. Right. So
Yes, that's true.
So coming back to your own alignment, listen to yourself, that will help you to build more resilience. Even if something would happen, you still know it's the right thing to do. It was still the right thing to do. Then it's okay. It's all good, right? It's all good. We have so many opportunities now. You can do this, you can do that other thing. Always trust yourself. Always trust yourself.
Always trust yourself. I love it. Something that's so important to me, building communities versus just companies you talk about, because too many businesses are profitable, but they're hollow on the inside, right? You focus on building transformational communities, not just profitable enterprises. What's the psychological difference between leaders who build movements versus those who are only building margins? Tell us about that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyway, that's very important to me. So I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Well, I think, we have to look at where we are in the society, or you can say in terms of time. It's so easy for us to be lost in this little now, what we call 2025, in the 10 years, in the 5 years. I just take a step back. How many billion years has Earth been? What is the age of the Earth? I think it's 4.5 billion, but you can fact check
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah, it's so it's so easy for us to be so caught up in this short period of time and forget where we actually came from. And why I
Mm-hmm.
say is because we live in a period of so-called consumerism. Now, in human history, consumerism has only been here for at the most, like 100 years, but then I'm really stretching it a little bit as well.
Right. That would be stretching it a little bit. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what I will say, what I mean with that is that, all right, we are here to build companies for profit,
Mm-hmm.
but for profit only is only driven by this very short era of time, which means the bigger part of how everything has evolved is for purpose. Right.
Yeah.
There's a purpose in the evolution of things. There's a purpose for, some of these big trends. So the purpose-driven way of building society, for me, is something that's going to be more sustainable. And we have a lot of great examples of that. today already that can merge purpose with capital and make capital serve more wiser. And that is where we need to go. Because we cannot like we all know, like if you make you create a company just to make a profit, maybe back in the days you could do that. Now it's too competitive. Everybody knows how to do that. Everybody can see through all of this stuff. So the only way for you to build something sustainable is to do something good.
Yes.
And that's only the thing that's sustainable. And, I work with a lot of, big family offices, second generation, third generation, and those kind of things. For me, building a business and making that first profit, that's not interesting. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not like I'm not
It
good.
doesn't. It's not good,
I'm
but
just
it's
I'm
not
just telling you
interesting.
that it's not for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to have a certain, amount of financial stability, which is good, which
Yes.
everybody needs. And I don't say I don't need that. I still need that. But for me, that is not as interesting as to really think about, okay, how do I build a business or a legacy that can survive 3 generations?
That's deep. That's bigger than saying I want to be a I want to make $3 billion network, right? That's bigger because it's going to take
That's
way more billions to do that, to impact 3 generations.
it's not just capital. That's the thing. We get a little bit
Yeah.
too caught up. And me too, I've been there in my early days and things. I thought that was the end goal, right? But the more you learn, the more you study, the more you interact with really, truly great people, with intellectuals that sees where we are from a historical point of view, from an intellectual point of view. We think about things slightly different because
Yes.
we are fed. We all need to know we are fed. There is a marketing machine out there that tells us what we need to do, what we need to buy. This is how we're going to make ourselves happy. In the end, it's not true. We all know
Right.
it's not
It's
true.
not true because profit scales systems, purpose scales people. I love that.
Mm,
How can
Yeah.
leaders evaluate whether their business is extracting value or creating evolution?
It's just you create more value than the amount of resource you consume.
Simple as that, right? Simple as
It's
that.
simple. I mean, you have a solid business idea. You need to do a product, and what you produce, the value of your product or your services is much higher than the cost base, right?
Yeah.
Then you're creating value. But on the inverse, if the value you're creating is much less compared to the cost you're charging,
Yeah.
then the only reason that you exist in today's world is because you have a monopoly or a oligopoly in that particular market. That's the only reason you exist, because a competition is gonna erase that, right? So if yeah, it's just so in that case, if you're managing, you're selling things at a extreme overprice because you have 70% market share, that's just market abuse.
It
Maybe
is.
you can get away with that for a little while, but it won't sustain. If you sell something that you cannot deliver, right? You promise a lot of things, and then you pay. You create that perceived value, right? But then
Yeah.
you deliver it not that high. Then you're taking more than you're actually providing. That's negative value.
That's negative value. I love it. You're extracting with a negative. I love it. Wow. Now, Yining, let's flip the script. Tell us about a
Mhm.
moment in your journey where inner clarity directly changed an outer business outcome for you.
Wow. I think for me, it's just been a lot of those situations. A lot of those
Wow.
situations, actually. So it's not just one particular situation, but I will say that like in my career and also where I'm right now, I just know that trying to chase clients or chase investors or those kind of stuff in the back in the days, you have these deadlines, you have these roadmaps, you have these timelines, all that stuff.
Mm,
That used to work, but it doesn't work anymore.
doesn't work.
Which means a little bit is that when you fixate your mind into control, into
Mhm.
planning, into certain outcomes, what you're actually doing is that you are predetermining a outcome in the future that you cannot have control over. Now, how good am I as an entrepreneur or as some person to be able to predict the future? Everybody wants and says they want to be able to predict the future, but to be honest, you can't. The reason we want to predict the future is we want control.
Yes.
So for example, for me, when I was in that particular mode, I set deadlines for myself, targets, and also I'm actually doing a couple of things. One is I'm predetermining a target that I have no clue about if that target is real, right? Or I'm actually limiting my target. I'm limiting my potential by setting
Yeah.
a target in a
Yeah.
time frame. So
Wow.
when you remove some of those control needs, you become less deterministic of a certain period. You become more open to opportunities and possibilities.
Yes. Ooh, I love.
And then during that moment, it's like, think about like you have different doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you become deterministic, you set this aside, you're going straight this door and you become like blind focus. Sometimes it's good with that. I don't deny. But sometimes when you do that, you forget that there are many other doors along your journey as well.
Yes. Yes.
So
Ooh, I love.
so when you take a little bit step back and then you actually let it be open for you, then you see, all right, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and many more doors will open because you're not closed.
Ooh. Ooh. Wow, that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. The time went by so quickly already. Man, I'm telling you, this conversation is so good. But I want to land the plane with precision. Mindset bites to go. This is where I step away from the camera and the microphone, and you speak to our leaders and visionaries listening and watching for us. For that leader who's listening right now, what is one mindset practice they can implement this week to make a better decision without burnout? I'll step away from the microphone and the camera, and it's all you, Yining.
All right. So for me, I will say a couple of things, the most important thing to do if you have that routine at time, it's just to, in the mornings, right? Every morning in the morning, you just go up there and make sure that you do your exercise, your morning exercise, the first thing in the morning. So, a lot of routines that I really wish I can, share much more with you, but this one is really big because instead of you doing any type of exercise in the afternoon or things like this, just in the morning, shift that time. Like, wake up in the morning, first thing you do, get a little bit of cardio, because when you do a little bit of exercise in the morning, it really removes a lot of these tensions, a lot of things, a lot of residuals that has been unprocessed from yesterday or the day before or from the night. During that little period of time, it's like cleaning, but not just cleaning yourself, right, from a shower. It's cleaning yourself from your mind. And when you have cleaned your mind and get that, exercise in, if you have time and if you have done that a little bit before, try to, after that morning exercise, do a 15-minute, or 30-minute meditation. I know meditation is not for everybody, but it really is another layer to help you to clear and clean your mind. When you have cleared your mind, when you feel fresh, right, then you go out there and create for the day. Right. So it's very similar. If you have a lot of garbage, if you have a lot of anxiety, you have a lot of things built up, then it's really difficult for you to put in another idea in, or another thought, or be more open. So you need to empty that cup for the day. And how you do that? Start that day with some, refreshment, do some morning exercise, and tap into that stillness, that meditation. 10, 15 minutes to start with. Then you really empty your cup so you can allow more water to be filled in. Right. And be open to the world. Be open to the world. Another thing that I really would, suggest for people is something I call alignments, right? So what alignment means is to really align both your outer world and your inner world. Because on a daily basis, we are faced with a lot of things, right? We have a lot of these challenges, if it's our health, our relationship, or our careers and things like that. So what is important is to not only focus on this so-called outer world, which mainly consists, in my mind, three things: your health, your relationship, your careers, but also to align that with your inner world. Now, always understand that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So, which means if you are very aligned and very centered in your inner world, your outer world will reflect that, right? So, what is important in that particular sense is to make sure your health, your relationship, your career, and along maybe with your shadows, with your doubts, with your anxieties, uncertainties, your core values and your embodiment is aligned, right? You have alignment in your outer world and in your inner world. If something is misaligned on the outer world or something is misaligned on the inner world, try to spend some time to center yourself so you become more aligned. When you're in that centeredness, you will feel peace, you will feel gratitude, you will feel resilience that we talked about. You will feel clarity. And when you have clarity, that's when you act. And when you act from a place of clarity, don't just act small, act big. Act with resolute. Be bold. When you have that clarity, go all in. Right. Take that chance, whatever it is, because you know that comes from a source of stillness, comes from a source of inner clarity, that comes from a source without residue. So those are a couple of things. First of thing, morning exercise, morning meditation, and then be aware of your outer world and inner world, and alignment will give you a completeness of fulfillment of your own thinking. From that alignment, act very boldly.
When you get out there, don't act small, act big, act boldly. I love it. I love it. Now, I have one last question for you because we're getting so good here. If clarity were treated as a business asset and stillness, clarity in stillness, not as a personality trait, how do you think leadership will change altogether?
So this is a very, also a very good question that also a little bit converges where we are in society as well, right?
Yes.
So in the long term, as I said, we will, be purpose driven because we are already purpose driven. Otherwise, we won't have this moment right now.
Yeah.
Now, stillness, clarity, it comes from a place of certainty from your inner world, from that stillness. And that is what drives purpose-driven leaders. So if you're a business leader, clarity and insight is actually what drives you. If you want to be great. If you want to be moderate and just make some money, oh man, all right, just chill, bro. Like, it's not gonna lead you. It's not gonna lead you to do the truly great things.
Yeah.
Purpose-driven clarity, inner peace is things that you will value. And those characters will help you to move beyond what you think and what you think you can do. And that motivation, we call it purpose-driven leaders, will always have a motivation that will be stronger than anybody else.
Ooh, yeah, I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness, so powerful. This conversation right here is an absolute reminder. It's a big reminder to leaders that we didn't just need more noise. We don't need more strategy. We need more alignment between our inner world and our outer world. Yining, can you share with us how we can connect with you and your voice and the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. Right now, can connect to me through my Instagram channel. So it's my Instagram handle is Yining_Sweet. So YNING_SUEDE. That's my Instagram handle, and that's probably the easiest way. And then we will publish things and and a lot of things that you can learn from me and also from my group, Sincere Alignment Group. So check it out.
Yes.
Sweet Instagram.
Yes, and we will have all his links in the description below. So to connect with him, explore his work at Sincere Alignment Group, which I love the title. I was so curious about that. Where conscious leadership meets real world results. And as always, disruptors, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do become. I'm Dr. Alisa White, your #1 mindset disruptor. Thank you for tuning in to Mindset Mastery Moments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, because clarity changes everything. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.